What is up, Sweat Squad? Welcome back to the 5 o'clock Sweats podcast. I am your co-host, Derick.
And I'm Ryan.
And I'm Chris.
And as we mentioned at the end of our previous episode, we're doing a little movie club here. We watched the 1974 flick, Texas Chain Saw Massacre. How about we try this one on for size? What about Sweat Cinema or Sweaty Cinema? Maybe that's what we call one of these episodes. I don't know. I didn't clear this with you guys, but
no, you definitely didn't.
Kind of out of the blue.
We can work on it.
Yeah. This was a movie that I've seen 0 times before this week. Have you guys seen this before, or is this a rewatch for you?
This was a first time viewing.
Yeah, first time for me. I've seen a few of the remakes and stuff, but not the original. So this is first time.
First time, and oh, what a time. This was I think we all, after we watched it, we sent a message to our group chat, like, what the fuck just happened? Basically.
Yeah.
So why don't we dive into it?
Let's.
So, I kind of took like sequential notes going through these. The very first note I took was just the word wheels, which is what I called Franklin the whole movie. Because he just came out of the van. I was like, wheels will probably live improbably illogically long. And then I was almost immediately proven wrong when he like almost died with his dick out rolling down the hill. I was like, dude, Wheels is gonna live until the end of the movie somehow. And then he almost died. I'm like, all right, maybe not.
Dude, I'm not gonna lie. I was laughing when that happened. It's like, silly guy.
I don't know what it was, but like, and it was not because he was in a wheelchair, but that character just pissed me off the whole movie.
There was something about him.
Yeah, I think what it was is like he just like was that whiny dude. Like,
yeah, he was annoying.
You know what I mean? I don't know. Like, and then like he was always like feeling sorry for himself, and it was just like to me he kind of felt a little out of place, like in the film.
Yeah.
I wasn't really sure what purpose he was kind of serving.
Yeah, it was weird because they like play up the fact that he, feels out of place and he knows that he really shouldn't have gone and they didn't really want him there. But like, spoiler, that didn't really factor into any of the movie.
Exactly. Like he didn't have some like heroic moment. Like there was no like redeeming, event. I don't know. I literally, and it's not even like he was like bait or anything like that. Like he just, I don't even know. I don't know what he was doing. I honest to God have no idea what his character was really accomplishing. And interestingly enough, maybe for that reason, I've not seen that kind of character like in many other horror movies. You know what I mean?
Whiny character.
Or like, but just like, there was an obvious reason for him being in like the wheelchair. I think it was supposed to make the audience, I guess, kind of fear for him because he was, always kind of like on his own.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't think it worked.
Yeah, I got a little anxiety from just like watching him just like live in the movie, just exist in the movie. Because like he's definitely like set to be like the sympathetic character, but also kind of like the comedic relief a little bit.
Yeah.
But by the end of the towards the end of the movie, like he's just whiny, and I did not like him at all. In fact, I liked no characters in this movie. All the characters sucked. They were all bad.
Especially Grandpa. We'll get to Grandpa later.
But dude, the scene, and Frank being in the wheelchair just made his friends seem even more like dicks. Like they're like they go to the old abandoned house.
Oh yeah.
In the watering hole, and they basically abandon him. Like there's like, all right, see you later, Frank. And he's just like trying to wheel around, like he's wheeling, like he's trying to traverse like grass and roots and rocks, and like he's on a fucking wheelchair. He can't easily maneuver around that crap. And
that,
just
that
like,
was like a rough, like 5-minute scene of him just trying to like get over that one route. He's like, fuck, where's my nut? Where's my nut? Fuck. And I'm like, damn, this is a long ass scene.
I was waiting for something. I was waiting for something bad to happen. Maybe that was part of the scene was like to add some tension.
Yeah. And I think you were right there when you said he was supposed to be like the comedic relief, but I never found any of his dialogue to be funny. In fact, like when he was in the house and they like everyone was upstairs laughing, and then he was like
He's doing the raspberries,
yeah.
which coincidentally, so did the hitchhiker. He also did raspberries. I don't know what the connection is there.
I don't know if there is one.
I don't know if there is
Is that
supposed to
just
be one,
something
but
people did in the 70s?
I guess.
Yeah, it was like overdone too. Like, okay, if you're gonna make like that weird baby face, like you do it once or twice, but it was like 30 seconds of him doing that. Very awkward.
Painfully long scenes.
Yeah. I agree too with what Ryan said. Is I didn't really care about any of the characters, and I don't know if that was by design or to me it felt like there was no character development. Even for like the family, like everything just kind of felt like random in the movie, and sort of I want to. It was weird. Like I want to say it felt rushed. Like everything just like because there was 30 minutes, and then all of a sudden you see Leatherface, and then it's like everyone's wiped out, and then like here we are just running in circles in the woods now.
Yeah, it was weird. The pacing was weird because it did feel rushed and also painfully slow at the same time, right? Like that raspberry scene.
Yeah.
Why did we devote so much time to that?
I don't know, and it literally didn't do anything for the movie specifically. But yeah, I guess let's go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead. No, you got
I was gonna talk about the moment that the hitchhiker is introduced into the movie, and like that's the first time it was like
plot.
Yeah. So like that's the first time like any tension's introduced to the movie.
Yeah, I guess at this point, that's even before the raspberry scene. So at this point, at the point where the hitchhiker comes in, who ends up being a main character, we find out there's like a grave robber somewhere in Texas. I think Newt, Texas or something like that, right? And
Sounds right.
Something like that.
There's a pair of couples and a wheelchair-bound lad named Franklin. So there's 5 people in a van. They're going to their grandparents' house, which I guess is near there. They stop by where the graves were robbed. I don't remember if that has any real significance other than maybe they had family there. And they pick up a hitchhiker. They don't really want to, but I mean, some of them were like, no, pick him up. And even the girls in the car were like, no, he looks fucking weird, dude. Maybe we don't do that. But they do.
Yeah. And he looked weird. he looked very, very weird.
And I think you're right. That was like the first taste of like suspense, really. Other than like a cryptic message from that old drunk guy at the graveyard.
Yeah.
That was weird.
Yeah, that was there's always like in every horror movie there's always like a character like that. Like the drunken homeless guy or like someone like that who just delivers a bad omen to the main character. Oh god. We have another dripping situation?
I think there's like a fan going on outside or something, like outside my window. Keep going.
Okay. I don't hear anything.
What's interesting though is I kind of found that a lot of the characters were like just so over the top, like very eccentric as well. You know what I mean? Like the hitchhiker's like super animated, and then even like I don't know, I guess you call them the good guys, like right, like the survivors, whatever you want to call them. They're like. Just everything that everyone does in the movie is just so exaggerated. And I think that's where like it feels kind of awkward at times because it's like nobody would actually respond or react that way.
Yeah, I have a note here that says sometimes it's hard to tell if like it was the way that the dialogue was written or if that's just how, movie line delivery was in the 70s. I didn't know if it was that or if, something was just weird with the character, like especially Franklin.
Was it intentional, like you said, or the other thing is too, we talked about how like it was a very low budget film, and the actors and actresses are, relatively speaking, like at the time they were not well known. So I guess there could be an argument made for inexperienced actors, and maybe that's why some of the things were kind of like overdone. It's almost like overacted, if that makes sense. So I that to me definitely took away from the film. The other thing that was overdone that, because I just watched this before we started recording, like my ears are still ringing. There has to be 90 minutes of screaming in that movie.
Oh yeah. Especially the last half hour, last 20 minutes is just mostly just screaming dialogue.
Oh yeah. It's a lot.
And nothing is happening and they're still screaming. You know what I mean? And
that is how I felt, yeah.
The screaming doesn't change based on what's happening, right? Nothing's happening, still screaming. Something really serious is happening, still screaming the exact same way.
Yeah.
Running, still screaming the same way. You know what I mean? It's like...
Dude, I felt bad for that actress, the actress that played Sally, because it was literally just screaming for 40 minutes.
Oh, yeah. No,
yeah.
It's nuts.
Hell of a job to her, actually. She did a great job conveying fear. Like, she probably needed to ice her vocal cords after that performance.
It was like kind of flat, though. Like, it wasn't like, there wasn't like emotion behind it. It was just like,
I think it was probably like take number 100.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. But that was my number one thing that I think took away from it, is just there was just too much screaming, and I think they could have.
I mean, do you blame it? Like the situation of the movie?
No.
I think screaming is necessary.
I agree, but
for real
needs
people in the situation.
Yeah.
It needs to be in the right moments, and I think it was almost like an excuse for like, oh, we don't have real dialogue, and so let's just fill the gaps, with noise. And then you have screaming, and then you have a chainsaw also going on at the same time. It's just like a little too many layers of sound, in my opinion.
It's definitely sensory overload.
Yeah.
Some of those scenes.
Should I keep walking through the plot, or do we just want to pick and choose at stuff?
Let's walk through the plot a little more. So we were at the hitchhiker.
Yeah.
Right.
So the hitchhiker, he like says some weird shit about his family being like into animal slaughtering. Like they kind of work at the slaughterhouse, and he says the stuff about head cheese, and it gets real fucking weird. He also cuts Franklin, which was like absolutely unhinged.
Yeah, at
like,
that moment you're like,
he cuts himself,
okay.
and then he cuts Franklin.
You're like, this guy cannot stay on this in this van. He's got to get out immediately.
Dude, that looked like a pretty fucking nasty cut, but they wrapped it up like 3 times, and it's just fine after that. Like Wheels was just good.
Wheels.
He was still bleeding through the bandage. It looked like I don't know.
Yeah, it was weird. But they come up to a gas station, and they are dangerously low on gas. And the gas station guy's like, we don't have gas either, dog. I'm like, you're a gas station. Like, shouldn't you not have gas? But they didn't. So they continued on to their grandparents' house. So Wheels, Franklin, and Sally are siblings, right?
Yeah, which, like, did they establish that earlier in the movie, or like, do they even ever do they ever come out and say it? Because I figured I got by the time like the middle of the movie like the middle act begins, like I got that sense just by the way they were talking to each other. But I don't remember a scene where they come out and say like, "Oh, sister, brother, whatever." Like I don't remember that actually happening.
I don't either, but then again, there was like also no backstory given for like any of the characters.
Yeah,
so
for literally anybody else.
I'm not surprised, unless it was so subtle that I missed it. But I don't remember that being kind of like explained to the audience.
Yeah, I knew. For some reason, I knew before they even got to the house that they were siblings, but I guess maybe just conversation.
Maybe, yeah. You've got a good read on it.
Yeah, they end up going to their grandparents' house that they used to go to when they were kids. It's all abandoned. Like, for a long time. Like all the wallpaper is falling off. What else happens? The four able-bodied people are talking upstairs, and that's when Franklin does his all raspberry thing for way too long.
Yeah,
it basically has like a temper tantrum.
Yeah,
two guys are trying to, like, they're flirting with the girls. That's basically it.
Yeah, and he is upset about that, dude. He is heated. And while he's heated, one of the couples, the one that isn't his sister, comes downstairs. They're like, hey, you said there's like a swimming hole around here? He's like, yeah, it's blah, blah, blah down that way past the shed. So they're like, all right, fucking see you in an hour. Bye. And he's still pissed at that. Anything there? I feel like not really.
There's the scene where he turns around to the door and there's like a pile of bones, right? There's
like a nest of animal bones or some shit like on the porch.
See, I thought it was like a dead bird or something. Like, I don't know. Yeah, it was kind of hard to make out what it was, but it was sitting right on the porch, like essentially at the front door. And then above him were the bones hanging.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was like something organized. Like,
and I think that was supposed to be like a little bit of foreshadowing, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, everything that sort of happens is either like subtle or it's like smacks you right in the face.
Yeah, literally.
There's like no in between.
Yeah, so the one couple goes to the swimming hole and the guy ends up hearing a generator. He's like, oh shit, maybe they have gas. So that's Kirk and Pam end up going to find the source of the generator. And it's this other house, which I guess is a neighbor, right?
Yeah, see, that's what I was trying to figure out.
It's close enough, right?
The proximity of all these buildings, especially as the movie goes on, it's like, you know, like she's running and all of a sudden she's back at the gas station. And it's like everything is like 25 feet away from it, from itself. But,
well, it makes sense by the end of the movie.
Yeah. So, yes, they stumble upon this house, which is like the house.
Yeah, it's the house.
Go ahead, keep going.
So Pam doesn't want to go in. She doesn't. Kirk is like knocking on the door. The door opens, and he's like, well, someone's got to be here. He keeps knocking on the door. He goes in. That's mistake number one.
Yeah, what the fuck are these kids doing? Like, they're trespassing. They're criminals. Just walking right in.
Yeah, I have a note here that says Kirk was always going to beef it. He got insta-dinked as soon as he peeked the corner. Literally, he goes into the house, and he hears something in the back. He goes around the corner. Bang. Leatherface just fucking sledgehammers him right in the back of the head.
Straight up one taps him.
Yeah, one tap. He's twitching. It's over.
That was
and the next note I have is he and Pam both trespassed. Naughty.
They're very naughty, and they got punished accordingly. That was a good that first kill got me because I was like, I was so sudden. I was like, whoa, there he is. There's big boy.
He is a big fella.
Yeah.
I actually think the most like intimidating part of that scene is then when he just slams that metal door.
Dude, yeah, that's awesome. That was awesome. I was like, oh shit. The movie is starting.
Like into his lair.
Yeah, you're like, what the hell's behind there? So at this point, Kirk, Dunzo, lights out. Pam is like, where is this motherfucker? She goes in too, and she ends up running within the house because she's like afraid or whatever, right? And she trips into a room that I've called the bone room.
Yeah.
Which maybe some questionable
however you want to interpret that.
It's just a room full of like animal bones and feathers and some alive animals in cages. Mostly bones. It must have smelled horrible. Like decomposing flesh, basically.
To me, that like kind of represented like almost like a trophy room.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I think the concept there is like they're like, you know, he's putting the family is putting that on display, kind of.
Yeah, because it is like a front room.
Yeah, and then that couch, like the couch that was like made of bones, and like had the skull. It was like a weird, almost kind of like a shrine. But and then she's just screaming, and then like, you know, like she like drunkenly gets up to try to run out of the room, you know?
Slide on the feathers.
Yeah.
Dude, I have a note here that says, like, because when she's in the bone room, like, I don't know what 1974 cinematography was, but it was just a bunch of shots of like them putting the camera on some of the bones. They're like, oh, this is scary. Oh, this is scary. At like different angles on different bones.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
is this like cinema? Is this what cinema was in 1974?
Just like showing what she's seeing.
Yeah,
Like the
for
horror of
way
the
too
room.
long.
Yes. Again, it was like 10 shots of bones. And by the way, they like all looked like they were purchased at Party City. Like, you know what I mean? They're like perfectly white.
Well, they
know,
also cleaned them. I mean,
I guess, yeah.
they boiled them and did whatever they had to do to clean them off.
Whatever they had
Yeah,
to do.
yeah.
They put them in the wash machine.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
Scrub 'em.
We'll go with that.
Get a really hardy sponge.
So yeah, all right. So keep going though. So she stumbles
Yeah.
into this trophy room of bones, and then she drunkenly like tries to get up and get out.
And she does not.
She tries. She almost
Leatherface
does.
gets her. Yeah, she
almost
gets got though. And Leatherface picks her up, brings her into that back room, and fucking puts her on a meat hook.
Yeah.
That shit was grisly.
That was
Yeah,
like Dead by
I like
Daylight
that,
style.
That was very good.
It was
I will
terrifying.
say that was kind of like an iconic scene though, because there's a great shot of her running out of the front door
Yeah.
and then him grabbing her, and like I think that's probably like a pretty famous still for this movie. I'm sure it was probably used as some of the promotion, but I think that was a good shot. There were some shots that were actually quite good.
Yeah, there's some good
Despite
shots.
there being a lot of like wonky ones. I thought that one was good. And then so he puts her on the hook.
Yeah, and he butchers Kirk just in front of her with the chainsaw. And I thought that was pretty good actually.
That was a gnarly scene. And that was the scene that scene in particular was the first time I was like, okay, this movie is not quite what I was expecting in regards to the gore level.
Yeah.
Like it was very subtle and subdued with the violence. Like it was suggestive violence, and like you can imagine what's happening, like what they're seeing, but they're not showing blood, guts, all that stuff, which I kind of appreciated. But going into the movie, I was like, I'm expecting to see just a ton of gore and a ton of blood, and you know, it's called the Texas Chain Saw Massacre. Like I'm expecting to see people get massacred with a chainsaw.
Yeah,
Like,
I was expecting.
yeah, people do get massacred with a chainsaw, but not quite in the way you might have thought.
I think that's two reasons for that. One, obviously the budget.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of the research I was doing was basically like they had to make all the effects like super practical. And obviously, you know, if you can make things more suggestive and more imaginative, then it saves, you know, in lots of effects. Second of all, though, I mean, if you look at a lot of movies, horror movies in the 70s, you know, this is an era where, you know, there's not a lot of like nudity, right? You know, even like the like sex scenes or like it's all like kind of just implied. And then same thing with like a lot of the violence and the killing. It's again, like you see certain actions, like you'll see like the swing of a weapon, you know, and you might see like a little bit of like fake blood splatter, but it's not like, you know, what we're used to these days where like, you know, like you kind of have like some stuff that's like, crossing the line.
Like
So,
Kill Bill.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Yeah, this is about when I was like looking at the pace of this movie, because this is still pretty early in the movie, right? They've traveled somewhere, they picked up a hitchhiker, they kicked him out of the car, they got to the house, and immediately, like as soon as we meet Leatherface, 2 out of the 5 of this party are just dead. They're
Yeah.
gone. Dunzo.
Bye.
I'm like, oh boy, that is fast. What's going to happen to the other 3? So Jerry, which is Franklin's sister's boyfriend, one of the 3 remaining survivors at this point, he's like, all right, I'm going to go look for them. So he ends up finding this house too. And he's looking around. He hears something from what looks like a chest freezer He's like, oh boy. He opens it, and it's just Pam's body, just fucking spasming in the freezer. And then he gets ripperoonied too. So just, again, off the rip, like 3 out of the 5 of these people are now dead.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just like,
It's so quick.
bang, bang, bang.
I'm
And
like, there's still 45 minutes of this film. What is happening?
like Pam, like she was not dead, but
She wasn't
then
doing good.
we don't. But yeah, I guess she just froze to death in the freezer. Like,
Well, if you remember, so he opens the freezer chest, right, and then like she like sort of like pops up, like don't
yeah,
like
exactly.
daddy
It was like a
vibes.
jump scare. It was like, oh, what the
Yeah.
fuck?
and then Leatherface just takes her face and just pushes her, stuffs her back in. But then she immediately goes into like Bethesda Fallout ragdoll mode. Yeah, exactly. And then that's the last you see of her. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And then after he kills Jerry, he like Leatherface runs to the window. He's like, "Where the fuck are these kids coming from?" He's like, and he's like sitting on the chair, like in shame, like, "How did I let them get in the house? Like, how could I have done this?"
I do have a note for that. So, one, it is scarier that he doesn't actually speak any words. He's just like,
He sounds like a pig. Like, is he making the pig sounds? Like, that's him, right?
yeah, has to be, right?
Yeah,
But-
because there's no pigs in the movie.
Yeah, he doesn't have a clear motive. He's just an absolute madman, is what I wrote down. And the scene that you just mentioned, like when he's sitting in the bone room, like, is he remorseful? Like, it seemed like it wasn't like he wanted to kill them. It was just he was compelled to kill them and did it, and then was suddenly like, oh shit, these people are dead now. Like, I couldn't get a read on him there.
Yeah, I kind of got the same impression that it was like, oddly enough, like he killed out of necessity.
Yeah.
Right, because they came onto their property,
Which is
and then
true.
then he like just quickly runs over to the corner and he's like,
Yeah, so
like he's just like making all these weird expressions, and then he just starts licking his lips.
yeah, that still was that was on there a little too long for my liking. He just like licking his lips, and
Yeah, it is.
Derek's got
such a
it.
creepy looking motherfucker. But I interpreted it kind of like, I think he enjoys killing, but he was afraid. He was upset at himself for letting them get into the house. And like almost Jerry almost got like rescued Pam, I guess. He's like, oh, how could I have let that happen? Like, I let my guard down and they almost were able to escape. Because later in the movie, we'll talk about it later, but you know, he's got some people he answers to. We'll say that we'll just leave it at that. So he didn't want to let those people down, I think.
Yeah. I mean, that's an interesting point too, the dynamic of that family. But all right, well, I'll let Derick keep going there.
Yeah, so at this point, it's like dark, right? It's already nightfall, and Sally and Franklin are the only two left. They don't know where Kirk or Pam or Jerry have gone. And there's another whiny fight between Franklin and Sally about like, no, we should go
flashlight.
see them. No, we should stay here. No, we should go find them. All right, I'm going to go find them, Franklin. You're like, give me the flashlight. He's like, no, I want the flashlight. And like, they're just fighting over this flashlight and whether or not to go. And she's like, fine, I'm just going to fucking go in the dark. And he's like, well, hold on. I'm going to bring the flashlight. And I'm like, God damn, dude, just go the first time. We didn't need another minute conversation of you trying to hog this light.
So the dilemma there was that she said, I can't push you up this hill.
Right.
But then apparently that wasn't an issue because they did go. They went. I don't know.
She's
did
definitely
go.
struggling. She's definitely struggling to push him. Like,
But that was just like another scene that was too long. Is like them yanking the flashlight back and forth.
Yeah, they're like, give me the flashlight. No, I want the flashlight, but we don't have the keys. We can't drive in the van. I'm like, God damn it, dude. What is happening? But yeah, they decide to both set out towards where they think the other three are. So they're kind of, Sally's kind of pushing him through the woods. It's heavily wooded, and there is a jump scare. this one did get me.
A big one. It got me too. Got me big time.
Leatherface just comes out of nowhere. Arrgh! Done. Wheels is gone immediately.
Dude, he gets fucked up.
He gets chainsaw to the sternum, and we never see him again. We see his chair later, but we see no more of Franklin.
Yeah, so that scene, you do see some blood squirting like onto Leatherface. And I was watching a video. Apparently the way that they had the blood squirt like on Leatherface was like, it was, I don't know who it was exactly, but the director or someone was like, they were standing like next to the wheelchair and like squirting blood at Leatherface.
Practical
Like,
effects, baby.
Yeah. But that scene got me good. Like that was an awesome jump scare. I was like, oh shit, he came out of nowhere. He came out of the house.
Yeah, because at this point, they like kind of painted Franklin as the main character protagonist. Like, oh, he's going to be the one that gets out of this. Like, that's probably why I was thinking, like, this guy's going to live, like, improbably long. I was wrong. But no,
Thank God.
Bang, gone. So now we're down to only Sally. So this is where the screaming starts, basically. There's a big long chase scene of Leatherface chasing her through the woods, and she is not doing great. She's running through like heavily wooded areas. I think she runs into a log and gets like clotheslined at one point, right?
Something
Sounds
like
about
that,
right,
yeah.
I watched this on Prime, and Prime comes up with those little X-ray things on the side, and apparently, because it's practical effects, I think they did have a chain on the chainsaw, and apparently because it was so muddy and the actor was wearing like 3-inch heels or whatever to make him like more imposing, he like slipped while he was chasing her, and like you can see him slip in the film, and that was him trying to like not cut his arms off. I'm like, that is
Oh shit.
so dangerous for a movie. But
Yeah.
There's gotta
Buddy
be,
is
like-
booking it out of these woods trying to chase her. And
That's not OSHA approved.
yeah, not at all. Dude, the union is not into it.
I'm sure he signed a waiver.
What else? Oh, so she's running away from him, right? And as luck would have it, where does she run into? She's trying to find some help. She sees a house with some lights on. She's knocking on the door, banging on it. She's like, please help me, please help me. She finally finds one at the door, and it changes to an interior shot. It's Leatherface's house.
Oh yeah. We've seen this
What
house a couple times
Bad
already.
luck. She ran into the fucking killer's house.
Wait, actually though, doesn't she goes up to the door and then it's locked and he comes up to her, so then she keeps running.
Yeah. She runs
And
to like
then-
the front door or whatever.
Yeah. Or okay,
Yeah,
and then
goes
does she
to the front door and then she locks it behind
Okay.
her.
That's what it was. Yeah. So she goes in the front door. Okay.
She goes
And then she
upstairs.
goes upstairs. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what
she
it was.
goes upstairs and she trips, and there's like it looks like there's 2 corpses there, right? One like dead guy in a suit, and then
Yeah.
like a decomposing woman sitting across from her, or sitting across from him. And at that point you're like, what the fuck is happening inside this house? Like, what is Leatherface doing in here? What happens after that?
Yeah. So she's getting chased by him, right? She's like, screw this, I'm going back down the steps. And then he comes through the door. And she's like, fuck it, I'm going back up the steps. And then
She scares him when she's like running down the stairs, and he's like chainsawing through his own front door. He like sees her running down the stairs. He's like, ah.
He's like, oh shit, you're here.
here's the best move though. She runs back up the steps and then she jumps out the window.
Dude, that was such a clean
Yeah,
jump
no
too.
fucks given. No fucks
She goes
given.
right through the window onto the ground, and then
Dude, the sound
you can
effects,
pick
I
up-
thought she fucking broke both of her legs when she jumped out of that window, like the second story window, and
Yeah.
landed on the ground. I'm like, oh shit. And at this point, I paused, and there's 27 minutes left of this movie. And we've killed 4/5 of our party. I'm like, is this just going to be 20 minutes or 27 minutes of her running?
Well,
For the
Yeah.
most part.
Oh,
Yes, it
basically,
was.
yeah.
Spoiler alert.
so
At this
she
point,
goes
I also
from
have-
the window, right? And then
At this
Where-
point, I hope she has the knife. I thought that was going to be like the saving grace, like the knife that she took from Franklin. I'm like, I
Yeah,
hope
yeah,
she
yeah.
has that. If this is going to be 27 minutes of him chasing her,
Damn, that's a good. I totally forgot about the
They
knife.
couldn't find the knife. They weren't sure it was. Do we ever know
Spoiler
where it went?
alert, they never found the knife.
I was gonna say we never find out where the knife was.
Such a seemingly big plot point in the beginning of the movie. Like, where's my knife? I thought I had it, but I gave it to you. Nope.
Yeah.
Never makes an appearance. Never see
That's
that
a missed
blade.
opportunity.
So she's running through the woods, screaming. He's chasing her with the chainsaw, and she comes to that gas station, the same gas station they stopped at the beginning. So again, what is the proximity that she's running this whole time, and she's at the gas station? Like, it's so weird. But she ends up finding the gas station manager inside, and like suddenly, no noise of chainsaw. Like, he was right behind her.
Yeah,
And
no,
then
yeah.
As soon as she bursts into the manager's office, zero noise. I'm like, what the hell?
And you knew that you knew right then. You were like, all right, this guy ain't a good guy.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe this guy's about to get murked too, but he's like, all right, well, we gotta go to the next town, and that's where we'll get help. I'm gonna go get the truck, and she's just sitting like alone in this manager's like living quarters, right? And it's just weird, right? Doesn't she have like she finally has a couple moments to like collect herself and think about it, and doesn't she just like start crying or something like that?
She stares at the meat.
Yeah, the meat. That's what, she's looking at the meat, which I didn't understand. Like, was that supposed to be like human remains? Like, because it didn't look like it. So I don't know.
I think it's implied it's supposed to be human meat.
Yeah. But back up like 5 seconds before that. The way in which he's trying to comfort her is so weird.
Well, he was like fucking dude.
Yeah, he was just like kind of like groping her, and then he starts like hugging her, and then he like puts her head like on his shoulder. Like, no stranger would do that.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's the 70s, but like this is
That's a little,
nuts. And then he shows up in the truck, and then from like behind him he pulls out like a rope and a burlap sack, and she's like, oh fuck.
He ain't taking me into town.
She picks up a different knife, like the manager's knife that he was just eating bread with or whatever, and she's like, get the fuck away from me. And he beats it like out of her hand with a broom. One tap beats it out of her hand with a broom, and then one taps her with the broom handle.
No. He was actually hitting her with the broom part for a while, not the stick. And then I think it breaks. And then so he just starts bopping her with the actual broomstick.
Dude.
I have a note that says this broom has some buffs on it. This is a +2 broom.
Dude,
like,
the broomstick's basically Mjolnir. It's basically Mjolnir. Like, it's Thor's hammer in his hand. Like, it's OP.
And then there's just this like they cuts to her just like not like knocked out on the floor, like from a broomstick. I don't know. Didn't make sense.
That's a little goofy.
Yeah, it was definitely goofy. But he ties her up, puts a burlap sack over her head, shoves her into the passenger seat of his truck, and ends up driving. You think, all right, where is he going to take her? Of course, he goes to Leatherface's house.
Back to the house.
On the driveway up, you find the hitchhiker. And the guy ends up yelling at the hitchhiker. He's like, I told you not to go to that cemetery. And the hitchhiker's like trying to like play it off a little bit. And that's when you find out that he was the grave robber. And now he answers to this guy who's the manager at the gas station. You don't really know what their relationship is, but that's their dad, I think, right?
They're brothers.
The manager, I thought the manager was the dad of the hitchhiker. So you end up finding out that the hitchhiker and Leatherface are brothers, right?
Yes.
And I think the manager is their older brother. I watched some videos afterwards, like explaining more about the lore. And apparently he's the older brother, not the dad.
Oh, so he's like the oldest brother, and then Leatherface is the middleest brother, and then the hitchhiker is the baby brother.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I guess is Leatherface the baby brother? Because that would make more sense in like the grand. Maybe not. I don't know if that matters, but
Yeah, I have no idea.
We'll talk about it after we're done going through the plot,
Yeah, so
the dynamic.
she's all tied up in this house, and it gets real weird from here, folks.
Oh my
She's
god.
tied up. They're like, we're gonna make you dinner, and then like Leatherface is making dinner. They're all like seated at a table, and then the oldest brother's like, all right, guys, why don't you go get Grandpa? So then Hitchhiker goes up, and he's like, Leatherface, come help me with Grandpa. And fucking they bring down the old dead guy that was sitting in the like upstairs when Sally was there the first time. You're like, that wasn't a corpse? And it's just this dude in like wild old man makeup. Like, it does not look good at all.
Dude, I still thought it was just a corpse up until, the point we're gonna talk about right now.
Yeah. So it's a struggle to get her to kind of get to the dinner. And then they're at the dinner. There's some fighting. There's something very, very wrong with everybody in this family. They're all like in her face and kind of jeering at her. It's fucking terrifying. There's like rotting meat on the table. Like it's not good, y'all. And then eventually they're like, we're gonna kill Sally. Like, we're gonna kill her. And then whose idea was it? Was it the hitchhiker's idea to let Grandpa do it?
Yeah, because he goes,
I think so.
remember, you said he's the best.
Yeah, so instead of, Leatherface easily ending this girl's life, or the hitchhiker probably easily ending her life, they make Grandpa do it. And by make Grandpa do it, I mean they've got the hitchhiker holding Sally. They've got Leatherface trying to put a hammer in Grandpa's hand so that Grandpa can beat her over the head with it. And this is another scene that just goes on for way too long.
So they say like Grandpa was the best at killing people. Like, obviously he's not strong enough to hold the hammer anymore. I thought this scene was fucking hilarious, honestly. It was terrifying, but it was like dark humor, I thought. Like, they're trying to like have him like, they're like, Grandpa, you can do it. They keep putting his hand, he keeps dropping it, and they're like, and then the hitchhiker's like trying to help him. Yeah,
firmly grasp it. Leatherface just kept putting the hammer in his hand. He kept dropping it. Like, he hit her once, I think.
With the hitchhiker's help.
But here's the thing that I think we skipped over this part. They cut her finger.
Yeah.
And they basically feed her blood to Grandpa. And I think, like, so talking about the strength, I think the concept is the more blood he has, in theory, the stronger he gets.
Yeah, the more lively he is. So when Leatherface is making dinner, that's when they cut her finger, and then they just put her bloody finger up in Grandpa's mouth, and it gets fucking gnarly from there. The sounds are not good. The video is not good. I have a note here that says, Grandpa just happily sucking them nubile digits.
Yeah.
He's just for way too long.
He's enjoying
and that's
it.
not
He's
even
slurping it up.
Not even an
he's going
exaggeration.
So that's when she passes out, and when she regains consciousness, that's when she's at the dinner table. And I think you're right with the blood, because when the hitchhiker's like holding her for Grandpa to hit her with the hammer, there's like a basin under her. So I guess the idea is that like they're gonna like capture all of her blood in that basin for Grandpa.
Ooh,
or something like
that's
that, right?
That's a good point.
So that is really mostly the last like plot point. The hitchhiker ends up like struggling with Leatherface a little bit, like trying to get him to show Grandpa how to do it better, and Sally just bolts. She's gone. She jumps out another window.
Yeah.
It's nuts. She has cleanly jumped out of 2 windows at this point. Like a fucking pro, consummate professional. And this is where it's just screaming until the end of the movie, basically.
It's 5 minutes of absolute mayhem. Like,
way more than that, right? Has to be.
Probably. Well, I mean that the whole dinner sequence, and then from that moment on is mayhem. But like this scene is just like it's fucking insane. It's ratchet. It's fucking ratchet is what it is.
I think there is like a continuity issue though, because the dinner scene is obviously supposed to be taking place at night, and then as soon as she jumps out the window, I was like confused. It's daylight, like broad daylight.
Apparently, when she faints after Grandpa sucks on that thing, apparently she wakes up the next morning. So maybe the dinner scene is really breakfast or something like that. I
feel like all this is happening like from the point that like Leatherface is killing everybody to the point where she finds the house for the first time is like it's like in the middle of the night. So like all this is happening like that when she escapes the house finally, it's probably like I don't know 5 or 6, 7 in the morning. Like it's fucking early, but it's daylight.
So there's a big long chase, or no, at this point, not really a big long chase scene. She goes out to the road, and the hitchhiker definitely could have caught her. He 100% could have caught her, but he was like trying to tease her a little bit, or the actor was just trying to slow down or something like that. Like he could have caught her immediately.
He's got a knife, and I don't know if it's the knife, but he's slashing her back.
Yeah.
He's
like while she's
probably
running.
the knife that he had in the van. So when they picked him up the first time, Franklin shows him Franklin's knife, and like he cuts his own palm with it. And Franklin's like, I'm gonna need that knife back, bud. So Franklin gets his knife back, but then the hitchhiker brings out like a straight edge razor that like he just has, and that's what he uses to slash Franklin. So I wonder if it's that he's slashing.
It's probably that knife.
But he follows her out to the road after inexplicably not catching her, and she like runs in front of a truck and gets out of the way. Hitchhiker does not, and he gets like flattened by a 16-wheeler.
He gets fucked up.
It is done. He's no coming back from that one.
No.
And the truck driver stops. And he's like, "What the hell is going on?" And right behind them is Leatherface with his chainsaw coming at them. And they're like basically playing Ring Around the Rosie between this like big semi-truck and the cabin. He's trying to get in. He's like slashing the cabin with the chainsaw, like the door. And it's really not doing as much damage as I thought it would to a car.
Yeah, I was scratching the paint. That's all it was doing.
Taking the paint off the truck. I'm like, that doesn't seem right.
Dude, why didn't they just drive off?
That's what I was saying.
Like, what are they
hell?
doing?
So
the
truck
key's got to
driver,
be the ignition.
If you're the truck driver, you see a woman run in front of your truck, and then you hit the guy that was following her, I think you stop and you're like, why did I just hit a human man?
Yeah.
Yeah, but then when a guy comes around the back of the truck with a chainsaw after you get back in the truck and drive away.
And she's screaming. I think you put 2 and 2 together at that point. Like, she's the victim. She's trying to escape these people.
Yeah, she's very bloody at this point.
Yeah.
The truck driver cracks me up, though, because, like, I don't know if you remember, like, he's like going to help her, then he sees Leatherface behind her, and he's like he bolts it back to the truck. He's like, "Fuck this shit."
He didn't have any lines either. It was just the funniest thing. He's being chased the whole time. He doesn't scream at all. He throws a wrench at Leatherface's head. He doesn't make any noises. He has no lines. Nothing happens.
He's an NPC.
Basically, yeah.
And then a small pickup truck driver passes them also, whips around. She just barely makes it into the bed of this pickup truck and drives away. I don't know what happened to the original semi-truck driver. He
runs
around.
He runs way off screen.
Yeah, he's just somewhere in Texas.
Yeah.
Running. But and then the movie ends. That's it. She's just crying in the back of this truck with some random Good Samaritan that picked her up in this truck. And the movie's done. Credits roll.
Yeah. Well, you got Leatherface. You have Leatherface doing his iconic little dance, whatever you want to fucking call it. Where he's just going crazy.
Yeah. As Leatherface swings futilely in the background, that's how the movie ends.
There was a little detail there too when Leatherface was chasing, and then he got hit with the wrench. He like fell over, and then the chainsaw like landed on his leg. and like, you know, cut him enough. But I don't know.
Yeah, boy's not mobile.
Definitely not. Definitely not. But just there's a lot to unpack with that movie. It was. I simultaneously felt like it should be a 3-hour movie, but also a 30-minute movie. You know,
they
like
cut that one down.
I don't know. It felt like they either needed to go longer and explain and like do more character development, or they just needed to like trim it down by a lot, because there were some scenes, like we had said, that just drag on. And I wanted to kind of ask you guys what you thought about the kills, because I think there's like an interesting dynamic here. You can actually see that when the men are killed, it's like rather insignificant and it's quite fast. But the women die in a more kind of drawn out, sort of like kind of like torture method. You know,
good point.
the one girl's hung up on the hook, and then she's put in a freezer. You know, and then while she was on the hook, she had to watch the other guy get like basically dismembered.
Gross.
And of course, Sally went through that whole debacle. So it just seems like the females got like, you know, the worst of it.
I just think it was coincidence, honestly. Everyone in that family, like all the antagonists in the movie, they're not in it for anything other than they enjoy, like the hitchhiker and Leatherface enjoy killing people. They want to kill people so they can cook them and eat them. Basically, because remember the scene where, you know, Sally's doing everything she can to escape. She basically says, like, she offers her body to them, basically, like, you can do whatever you want to me. And then they're like, they laugh in her face, like, and they're making faces at her. Like, they don't care about any of that. They just want to make her suffer in the worst way possible. And yeah, they just enjoy, well, the older brother, the manager, the gas station manager, like, he says he doesn't enjoy hurting people or killing people. That's why he leaves it to the hitchhiker and Leatherface. But he still enjoys like seeing people suffer, and he just doesn't want to be the one doing it. So that they're just fucked up in that way. But they don't have any ulterior motive, like maybe a normal, like, I don't know, maybe like you're like any other person would in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that's a good analysis. I also think like this movie definitely, like, I think inspires a whole genre of movies moving forward. I mean, you look at like same thing with like Halloween with Michael Myers, right? The whole idea there is that he's basically like a mindless, soulless killer, right? So I think the scariest thing is having these villains that have no real motive, and they're just there to cause, you know, chaos, pain, whatever. I think that's probably like the scariest factor is, you know, there isn't like there is no reasoning or bargaining, you know, and you can beg and plead all you want, but it's, you know, at the end of the day, there isn't something that they want from you.
Yeah, I agree with that.
You know, you have nothing to give
except their flesh.
Yeah,
their delicious flesh. Yeah, the only person that I think has any motivation in the movie is Leatherface, because I feel like I mentioned, like I alluded to before, he just wants to please his brothers. Like he and he's afraid of them too. Like you can tell, like when he's getting berated by his older brother, the gas station manager, like he's like a child. He's like a scared child. He's like cowering. Like you just saw this man just like slice people up with a chainsaw. And he's cowering to this guy who's like he's like half his size. He's not physically imposing whatsoever. Leatherface towers over him. And yet you can tell there's like the family dynamic, like he's got power over Leatherface. Like Leatherface fears him. And so like everything he does is so that he can do the best he can to satisfy his brothers.
Yeah,
that's all his motivation.
Good call on that, like, emptiness stuff, too. Because I think another one of those things that came up on the Amazon X-Ray is that there's actually 3 different Leatherface masks. One of them is when he's, like, killing Pam and Kirk and all of them. And that's, like, his killer mask, really. Mm-hmm. When he's cooking dinner, he's got a different mask with, I think, like a woman's wig, and that's his like housewife mask. And then during the dinner party, he wears like that black suit that you see pretty much until the end. And he has a mask that has like a bunch of makeup and stuff on it. And that's him like getting dressed up for dinner. And apparently what the directors wanted to convey there is that like he can't express his own emotions because there's nothing under the mask. Like he's just a body, and like the mask is how he like expresses anything, really.
That's interesting. That's a good point. Because I also think the premise, and you see this in some of the, like the later movies, he uses the victims' bodies for like his mask. You know, like he takes parts of their face and like he sews it together, which that alone is just creepy as hell.
It's horrifying.
It's fucking cool though.
I kind of wish like they, I mean, that's implied. Like you can like when they do the close up on his face, you're like, okay, that's probably human skin. But like, how fucking creepy would it have been if he had used like one of the characters' faces from earlier in the movie that he killed, and Sally sees that at the end?
Yeah,
like Jesus,
that would be horrifying.
Yeah.
In the 2003 remake with Jessica Biel, that exact thing happens. So like her boyfriend essentially gets killed, and then at some point a little later in the movie, she sees Leatherface, and he turns around and he's wearing that guy's face.
Oh, that's fucking
sweet.
Like
cool.
it like that to me is like one of the better ways to like reveal to another character that like that person was killed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they didn't find his body, but she sees his face on him. Like, okay, you know, it's pretty clear.
Yeah.
I also
like,
think
he's fine.
I think the dinner scene is really important because I feel like that inspired like, have you seen like Silence of the Lambs? There's a very notorious dinner scene in that as well, and I kind of feel like that comes up in other scary movies, and I think that's an interesting sort of dynamic.
Yeah, I agree. It's like a really calm setting, but there's so much tension, right? It's like all the things that you're supposed to be reading into, and like you don't know when, you know, that last straw is going to break, right?
Yeah. It's like a kind of like a similar version to like all those movies where it's like dinner parties, right? And like fights or awkward tension develop at a dinner party. It's like the same concept, except, you know, this old guy sucking on your finger. That's like the only difference. But yeah, I like that. And then I also kind of wanted to ask you guys what you thought about, you know, in the title of the movie is Texas Chain Saw. So, you know, as far as I could tell, this was like the first movie that I saw where they used, you know, like a weapon like that. I think traditionally you see a lot of knives, right? Like that's a pretty classic weapon, is a knife or something sharp. So I think the chainsaw is like its own kind of character in a way. And I just wanted to see sort of what you guys thought of a chainsaw, you know, being the weapon of choice. I think it's scary as hell.
Yeah, it's gnarly, is what it is. It's just like they got the noise of the chainsaw itself, and then it just feels so like over the top. Like you can just slice someone up with a knife, but a chainsaw, it just feels like such overkill that it kind of adds to the, I don't know, to like the gruesome nature of it. But also, like as I mentioned earlier, like this movie isn't particularly gory at all. Like you hear the name Texas Chain Saw Massacre and you're expecting blood and guts in every kill, and you get barely any. But the what the chainsaw does, especially in the scene with Pam on the meat hook, and then was Jeff? Is that his name?
Kirk.
Is it Kirk?
Yeah, on the table.
On the table, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, you're using your imagination. Like, if it was just a knife, like, okay, like, slice him up, but he's just a chainsaw. Like, that has got to be a gruesome, horrifying thing to watch, is your friend getting cut up with a chainsaw like that. I don't know, that the sound and then just like the imagination of like what it could look like is just horrifying.
I also think too. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, for me, it's like Leatherface plus a chainsaw is just like the epitome of brute force, right? Because Leatherface himself, big, strong, and loud. Like that's exactly what a chainsaw is as well. Like you were saying, like if it was a knife, like you can slice somebody and dissect them, but no, he's like butchering these people like animals with like this big brute force machine.
Yeah, it's good. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I think it makes him like very barbaric, because like you said, it's a messier death, and it certainly is. Like when I think of the chainsaw in a scary movie, you assume there's going to be dismemberment, right? Like you said, you're not stabbing or cutting. You're going to be sawing limbs, And I think too, on top of that, like the visual aesthetic of like that smock thing that he kind of wears. Mm-hmm. It gives like kind of like the butcher vibe. I think that is very intimidating. I think like his silhouette is pretty iconic, and I think it's also interesting to see how like they pick such a big burly like villain, right? Like I think like there's not only in what he's doing is there, intimidation, but it's like he's like his presence, physically is intimidating. Which you do see in like some other movies, like for example, like Rob Zombie's Halloween movies. I found that to be one of the scarier Michael Myers because that dude is literally like 7 feet tall.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's
you know what I mean?
Huge.
Like, so it's the hulking size, I think really adds to, the fear. So I think that's cool. And obviously he's like the main character. But I think it's different than other movies, You never really see a chainsaw. And I think what's cool too about the chainsaw is like you hear it before you see it.
Oh yeah.
Kind of thing. And I think you don't get that with a lot of other like weapons, in other scary movies.
Yeah. And one quality of Leatherface that I appreciate is that he's not walking to chase his victims. He's running.
Booking it, dude.
He is catching up to these people. Like he's not Michael Myers, just like pacing himself, and then the victim's running like as fast as they can, and then he somehow catches up to them. Like Leatherface is putting in the work. He's working on his cardio. Yeah,
and there's like obvious utility in using a chainsaw too. Like, and you see it in the movie, right? Cutting through doors. Basically, you can get through an obstacle, but like his thing is he can just cut right through it. You know what I mean? Like when they were in the woods, he's just cutting through the branches. Like I think that's also pretty intimidating. Is like the traditional ways of escaping are kind of gone. And he's kind of fast with that thing.
Yeah, he's huge. He's super strong.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. Overall, I mean, I'm not going to rate the movie, but I think the best way I can sum it up is after I watched it, I was like, well, that was a thing.
It existed, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm happy that I watched it because it seems like one of the ones that, it's one of the classics, right?
Yeah.
So I'm glad I finally watched it. Would I watch it again? Not for leisure, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, not for leisure. It's not going to be one. It could possibly be one of those ones that I just watch each Halloween just to do it, like how Halloween is kind of for Chris and I.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's a movie that you don't feel great after watching it. Like I felt icky, and I think that's a testament to the movie.
Yeah.
And I wanted to touch on briefly, like we talked about the budget, but like I don't know, something about the setting and like the grit and grime of the movie and like how sweaty everybody was. It just like added to the realism of it, and like I felt uncomfortable watching the movie. Like I felt like I can tell these people are like miserably hot and like uncomfortable in the entire movie. They're not comfortable whatsoever, and I could feel that just like coming through the screen.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think like the dread and like the I really don't want to be here kind of feeling. I felt like that was pretty visceral. So that's a good point. And you're right. Like there's a lot of scenes where you physically see them sweating, you know, and I would assume based on filming in Texas that was probably legitimate sweat and not, you know, something that's like applied to them.
No, definitely not. It was all authentic perspiration for sure.
Yeah, even the back sweat. That one dude's button-up shirt, just so much back sweat.
I felt
so
that.
dark.
I felt that. I was like, I feel your pain, my guy. And then really quick before I don't think we can end the episode without touching on the editing and the dinner scene with the eyes. Her eyes.
Oh yeah.
That shit freaked me the hell out. Where it's just close up of her eyeballs, and like you can see the veins, and she's just moving. The editing was so frantic in that scene; it just added to the horror and like the uneasiness, and you're just like going crazy. Like you feel like her mind's racing at that point. Like I'm gonna die. Like how do I can't escape this? And like you feel that dread, and the editing does a great job in kind of making you feel that way. I thought that was just really, really, really well done and fucking scary.
I remember thinking while I was watching that though, like how the hell did they do that in 1974? Like, I mean, you're getting like insane
right
close-up detail of their eyes, but I mean, obviously there was technology to do that. I just feel like I don't even think my iPhone could do that.
But you said we didn't want to rate the movie. Do we want to rate the movie?
All right, what's the scale?
Like on a scale
you
of
name
1
the
to
scale, I'll give you a rating.
1 to 10.
6 only because it has the street cred. I think without the street cred, I'd probably give it like a 4.5.
Okay.
I'm gonna put it at I'm gonna say, and this is just amongst horror movies, right? We're not like comparing this to like, you know, I don't know, Saving Private Ryan, for example. But
Puss in Boots.
For a horror movie, I would give it probably a 7, and the 7 is because I think the villain is a very iconic silhouette. You know what I mean? You could black out his whole image and just show me the outline of him with the chainsaw, and I would know exactly what that is right away. And then I also think, you know, what it's done for a lot of horror movies, you know, after it, I think it was very influential. So I'll give it a 7 for some of those reasons.
Yeah, I'm also gonna give it a 7 for similar reasons, but also just the setting and it's just like the dread of it all. It's not a movie that like I'm excited to watch. Like I want to watch again. Like
yeah,
like it did a great job in making you feel terrified, but not in the most conventional scary movie way. And I respect it for that.
Yeah, and there we have it, folks. That is the Texas Chain Saw Massacre. Thank you for joining us for another, or I guess the inaugural, what did I call it? Or try to
movie
call it?
Club.
Sweaty Cinema?
The Sweaty Cinema Movie Club.
Oh,
Whatever.
boy. That doesn't have a good mouthfeel. But if you participated in this, if you also watch this movie, if you have any opinions, please let us know what those are. You can reach out to us on Instagram. We are at 5 o'clock sweats, X at 5 o'clock sweats. You can leave some comments on YouTube. We are available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Anything else?
No,
that's all I
Derick.
got.
I have nothing,
And
Derick.
just like all of the cast of the Texas Chain Saw Massacre, stay sweaty.
Stay sweaty.
That's good. That was a good one.
I kind of ambushed you with that one. That's not the normal lead up, huh?
I like it. They were very sweaty. As we
That was
said,
good.
they were very sweaty. I'm happy I didn't address the mask at all throughout the entire episode, and I just wearing a mask.
It is an audio podcast.
True.
It just happens to have a video component. Dude, is this where the van trope came from, by the way?
Probably.
Okay, what do you mean? Like the shaggin' wagon?
Yeah, and like Scooby-Doo's got a van. I feel like any horror movie Like,
I think it was just
Cabin in
70s,
the
and I think it's
Woods.
just like a really convenient way to cram the whole cast into one vehicle.
yeah, it can't be like 2 Toyota Camrys rocking
Exactly.
Yeah.
Two
a good point.
Priuses.
That was just the way youths got around when they wanted to take a road trip
Youths.
back in the day.